You may have heard that we've never detected alien life, but it's more accurate to say that we've never confirmed alien life. So anyways, I did a bunch of research and drank some booze and sang some songs, and fortunately I recorded it, so here's that. Alright, well I can already tell this is going to be a good video because I got a drink before I even mic'd up, so it's going to be great. To start, we're going to have to go back to when the first exoplanet was discovered back in 1992. A whole new world. At this point, we had only kind of theorized that other stars had planets around them. Obviously, science fiction was way ahead of us by like a century, but it wasn't until 1992 when we finally discovered a planet orbiting another star. As of time of recording in 2021, we have discovered over 3,000 star systems that contain over 4,400 planets. Now, not all of them are considered suitable for life, but the truth is, there's very little we know about a lot of these planets so far, so we're really not going to know as much about them as we know about planets in our own solar system until we're able to send probes to investigate them. And as there are a lot of planets that are very, very far away from us, that might be a while. Speaking of planets that are a little closer to home in our own star system, there are the moons of Jupiter, and one of them is called Europa. So Europa was first discovered by Galileo Galilei in the 1600s, but he didn't have any satellites. So we wouldn't send a satellite to look at Europa until 1995. Technically we sent it in the 80s, but it got there in 1995. And what it found was that Europa, while it's covered in ice, a lot of that ice is like covered in weird cracks. There's not a lot of craters like Earth's moon. And there seems to be some kind of disturbance of Jupiter's magnetic field near Europa, which would indicate a very electromagnetic fluid. And the most likely fluid would be liquid water, since the surface is ice. So they're thinking there's just this giant salty ocean beneath Europa, and current estimates have it that Europa's ocean is larger than Earth's, and I guess size matters, you know? The point of this is that water is considered a precursor for life, and Europa has liquid water, so it's kind of the best place to look in the solar system if we're looking for aliens. So in 1996, a meteorite was analyzed that had come from Mars, and little structures were found in it that at the time didn't seem to be able to be explained by any natural or geochemical process. And it was assumed that the most likely thing that it could be was bacteria. And as the meteorite had come from Mars, this was kind of a big deal. This was controversial from the start. From the very beginning, people were like, okay, well, if it's alien bacteria, you've really got to have your shit together in terms of this evidence. And it turns out a lot of that evidence was shaky. It's never been disproven, but it's like, maybe it's bacteria, and if it is, it's from Mars. But we don't know that for sure. So it's another one of those, like, did we find aliens? Like, maybe. Possibly. We could have. So fast forward all the way to 2004. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and damn right. The European Space Agency sends a probe called the Mars Express, and this is the first time that we discover that there's methane on Mars. The thing with methane is that it could be an indicator of life, and it breaks down very quickly in the presence of UV, and Mars is like absolutely goddamn covered in ultraviolet radiation. So it's very weird for methane to just be kind of hanging out where it's very dangerous for methane to be hanging out. So this was big, and we have continued to record the presence of methane again and again and again with a bunch of different Mars missions. So it's curious, like maybe there's some kind of, I don't know, some kind of geological process to produce the methane, but it's leaning towards life In 2018, things got even weirder because NASA discovered that the presence of methane seems to have a seasonal pattern. So maybe there's bacteria that blooms for part of the year and then kind of dies off and goes dormant for other parts of the year. Or again, this could be methane from some other non-biological source. We just don't have enough information yet. So in 2011, Osaka University put forward a really wild idea that wasn't even being considered really at the time. But they discovered several weird things floating around in the galaxy, and 10 of these, they determined the most likely explanation would be Jupiter-sized planets that are just floating through the galaxy, completely untethered to a star's gravity. So they're not part of any star system, and they're called rogue planets. And further, the data indicated that there were twice as many of these Jupiter-sized rogue planets as there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Once you go into celestial bodies smaller than Jupiter, it gets something like 100,000 times as many rogue planets as there are stars. So our whole foundation of looking for aliens is assuming there's got to be liquid water, and for there to be liquid water, there has to be an energy source to keep it liquid so it doesn't freeze, so the planet's got to be around a star, so let's look for star systems. And it turns out not so much. There's some mathematics about how the internal gravity of a planet could keep water liquid. So this is happening around Europa. Jupiter's gravity is stretching Europa, and so it's like squeezing a stress ball and it getting warmer. That's what's keeping Europa's ocean liquid to a certain extent. And in theory, these rogue planets could have liquid water on them as well. So our entire approach to looking for alien life kind of has to be reconsidered, seeing as how there's so many rogue planets floating around that could be hosting life. Despacito. In 2018, we found another weird source that we didn't think we were going to find it, and this time it was ice on the moon. We had thought, the moon doesn't have an atmosphere. There's no way that there could be any ice or water on the moon. But it turns out there's certain craters in the moon where sunlight just never reaches. So ice never sublimates away, and there's a bunch of ice there. And who knows how old this ice is and what's in it, or if there is some more subsurface ice that we don't know about. This is good for future exploration of the moon, especially if you consider a lunar outpost or colony there. It's awesome that there's water nearby that you could theoretically mine that ice and be able to drink it, or use it to water plants or whatever. But again, the presence of water, even if it's ice, indicates there may be some possibility of life. So how exciting that we spend all these billions of dollars searching the universe for aliens, and it's more or less on our doorstep. Awesome. So another planet in the solar system that's been of interest is Venus. But Venus has a very hostile atmosphere. It's one of the few places in the solar system with an atmosphere, and instead of being much smaller than Earth's, it's out of control. Greenhouse gases make the surface incredibly hot. All of the landers that the USSR has sent to the surface of Venus have only shown footage for a few minutes before just melting. Since lead is liquid on the surface, you can't really have electronics because the whole point is all of the components are basically glued together with lead. So the whole system just completely melts very, very quickly. Anyways, in everyone's favorite year, 2020, I'm talking whap, whap, whap. Some astronomers discovered that there were indications that there was the chemical phosphine in the atmosphere of Venus. And the thing with phosphine is that it's very, very difficult to make naturally. We don't know of any way you can make this with a geological process or with a chemical reaction in the atmosphere. The only way it could be produced is with life. Now, later in 2020, macaroni in a pot. the researchers put forward the idea that maybe they had made a mistake, and maybe that detection of phosphine was actually a false positive. Another situation that the answer is just like, I don't know, like probably not aliens, but like maybe aliens, you know? What am I even doing? What is this dance? Like a selling used cars or something. I've been stuck inside, so I'm just like slamming this whiskey and it's like hitting me. I used to be able to handle my liquor, but I've just been inside drinking water like an asshole like all year. So now I'm just a complete and total lightweight. Lovely. This is going to be a great rest of the video, you guys. It's going to be great. So at this point, you may be thinking, sure, mildly tipsy person, maybe there's bacteria on the moon or whatever, but that's not the same thing as an alien civilization. We have noticed something. To that I say, let's keep drinking, shall we? It was me, Your Honor. I did the crime against makeup. I don't know why that my first thought when thinking of like alien makeup is graphic liner, but just a basic bitch, what can I say? Definitely, the bun has to go. The bun's leaving. The bun has left. My original concept for this video was that it's like 1 drink, you know, pretty respectable science. 2 drinks, who knows? And then 3 drinks is like, oh my god, like aliens everywhere. But to be honest, I'm still on my first drink. I just miss going out to bars. From here on out, I'm going to be talking about evidence for an alien civilization. We're talking technology, we're talking intelligence, we're not talking bacteria anymore. Hence why I thought the graphic liner would be somehow appropriate for this occasion. So I feel like the first big piece plops into place in 1933. We're in the money, we're in the money. So there is this guy, I don't even know his name, he's Polish, discovers that the math really doesn't add up for the galaxy's rotation. With our understanding of gravity, galaxies shouldn't be able to hold themselves together. There's not enough stuff there to make it sustainable. So in theory, there's just a whole bunch of stuff in the galaxy we can't see. Either that or our theories about gravity are totally fucked. And I'm talking like all the way down to Einstein, stem to stern, fucked. So the idea of dark matter is an idea that science has kind of begrudgingly admitted to, but they really didn't want to. They really hated this idea that there's stuff in the universe that we cannot detect by any means except that it has a gravitational field. So it's just completely invisible in all wavelengths. It doesn't have an electric field or magnetic field. It doesn't have anything to do with the nuclear force, like just gravity. Scientists hate it, but it looks like dark matter is here to stay for the foreseeable future. Also, this isn't a negligible amount of matter. Current estimates have it that 85% of the universe is dark matter. Only 15% of the matter in the universe is stuff we would think of as matter, like me or this book. So it's kind of a big deal. I mean, the original search for aliens is, the universe has had all of this fucking time to make aliens. Where are they? So if you want to look for evidence of an alien civilization, I feel like you kind of have to consider the 85% instead of just looking at the 15%. What better way to hide from potentially dangerous other aliens than by completely going invisible? There could also be all kinds of benefits to having a civilization made out of dark matter that we just don't know about yet. And again, to stress, we have absolutely no idea what dark matter is. Could just be dust and stuff that could never support life and be completely uninteresting, or it could be a giant alien megastructure. We just don't know yet. So, moving along to 1961, Let's twist again, like we did last summer. There is a scientist named Antoni Przybylski, and he discovers a very weird star by 1960s standards and by today. In fact, no other star has been discovered with these kind of characteristics, which is pretty incredible considering the number of stars that we've looked at. Millions and millions of stars. This is the only one doing this shit. And when I say this shit, I mean that we detect really crazy radioactive elements in the star that we just don't detect with any other star. Most stars are hydrogen, helium, sometimes all the way down to iron. This star has uranium, plutonium, americium, actinium, protactinium, curium, berkelium, californium, einsteinium, promethium, and technetium. So these are all kind of the elements that are removed from the periodic table. They've got their own little rows at the bottom. This is the whole, this is how you make the Incredible Hulk area, the Chernobyl area of the periodic table. These radioactive elements, and what makes radioactivity so dangerous, is that it decays very rapidly. The nucleus decays and it becomes a element lower on the periodic table. Well, maybe I am getting tipsy. So these radioactive elements start off very heavy and then can't hold on to that mass, and they break up and decay. This is how we can age things because this happens very, very consistently. So with this star, it has all kinds of radioactive elements that don't last that long. So for example, einsteinium has a half-life of 472 days. This means that of the einsteinium that is there, half of it is gone in 472 days, and then half of that is gone in another 472 days. That is not much longer than a year. And again, this star was discovered in 1961. Let's twist again, like we did last year. There's still radioactive elements in it. The theory with aliens is that to signal to another species or just to the entire galaxy that, hey, we're intelligent, we're a civilization, we're right here, is to dump these radioactive elements into the star. Maybe also they're just dumping their nuclear waste there, we don't know. It's been a long time since 1961, and we still just have absolutely no idea what's happening with Przybylski's star. So, moving right along to 1977. You are the dancing queen, something, something, only 17. An astronomer named Jerry Ehman, E-H-M-A-N, Ehman? Sorry, you're probably still alive. I'm butchering your name. You belong in the history books. I'm very sorry for making this video. This astronomer was at Ohio State University using telescopes that were there and is going over the data from what that radio telescope picked up. And what he found was a signal that lasted for 72 seconds. So the signal is interesting because it is at 1420 megahertz. And this is significant because you're not allowed to transmit on this frequency. Basically, you never see anything here. It is just absolute dead silence. And here is this signal. And it looks like it's coming from space. In 1977, there were probably quite a few military satellites in orbit. And perhaps this is what bounced back some kind of Earth signal. Or maybe it was a signal that that military satellite was beaming down. But since 1977, nothing's been declassified. We have no confirmation of anything at all. Now, this signal, usually with radio signals, there's modulation. It shifts around and that's how you encode information in it. This has no modulation. This is just a dial tone. It certainly doesn't look natural. And it certainly looks like it wasn't from Earth. It's hilarious. I was gonna have 3 drinks in this video. Gotta kill this. Alright, so in 2008, I kissed a girl and I liked it. The taste of her cherry chapstick. This star was observed to have a giant dust ring around it. So the name of this star, astronomers have no imagination. TYC 8241-26521. TYC blah 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 had been observed since 1983 to 2008. The dust cloud was there. It was enormous. It was just like an early solar system settling into whatever it's going to do. And then we looked at it again in 2010, and the giant dust cloud is gone. The solar system just completely cleared a massive amount of dust, about as much as makes up Saturn's rings, in the span of 2 years. We have absolutely no idea what natural process could possibly do this. So it implies that this was some kind of mega-scale engineering project of an intelligent alien sort. Again, highly speculative. Probably there's a natural explanation for dust disappearing, but it's certainly really weird. If you're like really young and you don't know who Buzz Aldrin is, he was a member of the first trip to the moon in 1969. So he's giving this interview in 2009, and he drops this bombshell that there's an obelisk on Phobos, a moon of Mars. So there's been a lot of stuff that's been like found on Mars. For a while we were really concerned about the face on Mars. There's like pyramids on Mars, obelisks on Mars, but it always tends towards a obvious natural explanation. The face on Mars is just humans see faces and things that are not faces because we're just really smart. So smart. The pyramid just turned out to be a hill. The obelisk, this big, giant rectangular prism, there's a cliff nearby. It's pretty obviously a piece of the cliff. The obelisk on Phobos is different. This moon of Mars is really, really tiny, and it is just absolutely featureless. It's like if Kansas were a planet. And in the middle of this flat nothing is this giant 90-meter tall building-sized hunk. And we don't know any natural explanation that can like conclusively explain it. There's some evidence that this obelisk is bedrock that's like jutting up through the surface of the moon, but we don't know that. We really haven't done a mission to Phobos. It'll be at the top of the list of things to do on Phobos, is to check out what even is this. I mean, think about this. It's roughly as wide as it is tall. 90 meters is gigantic. This is a giant building in the middle of flat nothingness on a moon around Mars. And like, you've probably never heard of it. I'm totally gonna finish this, you guys. Be proud of me. So, remember that disappearing dust cloud? It turns out not only did we find disappearing dust, there was a whole star that disappeared. This is a totally unnamed star. It's been studied. I have looked around. No one has thought to name this thing. I apologize on behalf of the astronomer community that I'm not a part of. This unnamed star is in the Kinman Dwarf Galaxy. It is 75 million light years from Earth. So that's like a lot. We definitely saw it in 2011, and it's definitely gone as of 2019. Maybe it's hiding behind another object and not casting any kind of eclipse. Maybe it collapsed into a white dwarf without going supernova, which is against all of our ideas on stellar physics. I'm not saying it's aliens, because it's probably not aliens, but I thought I would include it on the list. We included disappearing dust, so we might as well include a disappearing star. So there's a thing called the Sloan Digital Sky Survey. This is record of the light and all kinds of other wavelengths of energy that we can see from 2.5 million stars in the sky. The Sloan Digital Sky Survey is very important for astronomy. There's a lot of exciting papers that come out of just having access to that data. One such paper is by Ermanno Borra and Eric Trottier, and they had this theory that if alien species wanted to communicate, they could kind of like, you know when like you're trying to get someone's attention in a car and you like flash your lights, and normally they do that like boop boop situation? Like for whatever reason, we think like flashing the lights twice is going to be like really exciting. I guess if you only flash your lights once at someone, like maybe you're a Butterfingers and you're really clumsy. But if you go boop boop and you flash your lights twice, it's like more clear that it was intentional. Anyways, they had this idea of like, well, if we're trying to communicate to other species that we exist, maybe we would flash our lights. So here comes the Sloan Digital Sky Survey data. They go through and they look for any evidence of any star like flashing or pulsing. What they found was 234 stars. 234. And it's not like they all blinked a little bit. They all had exactly the same two rapid blink situation. If this were a situation where their equipment was... If this were a situation where this was a technical error, you'd expect to see it on all 2.5 million stars. And again, this was only 234 stars. Also, a little more creepy, all 234 of those stars are very similar to our own sun, at least in size and age. So in theory, if we're looking for life, we're looking for stars like our own. The stars like our own are flashing their lights at us. Probably eventually we'll figure out a natural explanation for it, but there's some chance that this is it and this is aliens flashing their lights at us. Which is cool. I feel like with a blue eyeshadow, I look like a Ronald Dahl witch that has a blue spit. Just throwing it out there. I know I made a dumb joke about being lightweight, but I'm needing more alcohol. Alright, I watered down my drink with some sparkling water like a little bitch. Next up is in 2018. And this is the big one. This is Oumuamua, and you may have heard of it. This is the first detected interstellar object in the solar system, which is huge. You think we would have all kinds of comets and asteroids and meteors just like flying around the solar system, and those are from outer space, right? Well, yeah, they're from space, but they're not from the outer galaxy. They've been circling the sun and they just happen to get really close to us. So this was first detected by astronomer Robert Weryk. And Weryk saw that it was moving away from the sun. It was already on its way out of the solar system on this weird, like, sharp V-shaped trajectory around the sun. And it seemed to have acceleration that can't be explained by gravity alone. So in addition to it just accelerating on its own, it's extremely shiny, about 10 times shinier than the average comet. Further, it's very elongated, so either it's cigar-shaped or, more likely, it's disc-shaped. The reason why it's more likely to be shaped like a disc is because it seems to be tumbling. It rotates every 7 to 8 hours. And if it were shaped like a cigar, it would have to be oriented exactly right for us to see that, whereas a disc could have any kind of orientation and we would still be able to see that very clear tumbling motion. Also, this thing is giant. It's about a quarter-mile wide. So we have a quarter-mile wide, shiny, flying disc that accelerates under its own volition, that is from outside the solar system and headed back out again. Oumuamua was observed traveling between 26 and 88 kilometers per second, which, if you ask a nerd, will tell you is pretty fast. So one explanation for how an object could speed up like this is outgassing. Say it has ice on it, and then the sun's heat melts the ice, and that pushes on the object, and that causes it to accelerate. The problem is that this object was never seen outgassing. Even weirder is that 26 kilometers per second is very close to the local standard of rest. So the local standard of rest is basically the rough speed that the entire Milky Way is moving. And the indication here, or the implication, is that Oumuamua has been circling the galaxy for a while. Several times, meaning it's over 1 billion years old. If this is the product of an alien civilization, it's a civilization that is either gone extinct or is incredibly more advanced than we are. So, two astronomers, Loeb and Bailey, wrote this paper that said, hey, we don't know of any natural object that can look like this, but we do know what an artificial object that would look like this would be, and that's a solar sail. So basically, light can push very, very slightly on objects, and when you're in a vacuum, you don't have any friction. So if you have a really, really, really giant sail, you can capture that push that the light has, and that can accelerate you. This is a theoretical propulsion system that we could use to travel to other stars in actually the pretty near future. The point is that in this paper, it's documented how the acceleration we see from Oumuamua could be explained by this theoretical solar sail technology. That brings us to 2019 and the orcs. In this case, not the D&D variety. I don't know if they're in D&D. I just play Skyrim, and they're in Skyrim, so that makes me think they're in D&D. Anyways, these orcs are an acronym. Odd Radio Circle. In this case, orcs is an acronym for Odd Radio Circle. We found 4 of these. Usually, if there's a circle of radio, it's around a thing. Like a thing did something. Something exploded. Something ejected mass. Something went supernova. And you get a ring or circle of radio around that. But these 4 orcs, odd radio circles, are odd because there's no object making them. They're just floating out there. They seem to be a new and incredibly rare artifact of the universe. And them being new and unusual means that if there is a natural explanation for it, it's an extremely rare one. So this kind of gets close to like a watchmaker analogy for those of you that are young Earth creationists. I don't know who I'm kidding. There's no young Earth creationists watching this video. Anyways, since there's so few of them, it raises an eyebrow of what natural process that would produce this would be this rare. Gotta drink all my mostly water. So also in 2019 was another really exciting signal. This was Btl1. Okay. Btl1, Breakthrough Listen 1, as in the first candidate that this enterprise, Breakthrough Listen, has found. The idea is, again, like the other situation where we found signals by looking at the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, Breakthrough Listen piggybacks on a lot of other projects where they're gathering data anyways, and they're specifically looking for potential signals that might indicate intelligence or information behind it. It's been going on a while, a few years, And this is the first time things look really weird. When you point a radio telescope anywhere from the surface of the Earth, most of what you see is going to be Earth signals. We're very fucking noisy. We're terrible neighbors. Breakthrough Listen has designed a lot of software filters to remove all of the signals that are obviously of Earth's origin and of no interest to Breakthrough Listen. And this signal went through all of those filters. We can't find any explanation for this. The director of the program insists that this is almost certainly a signal from Earth, but we have no idea how it made it past all of these filters and how it's so unique among the signals that could have been detected. So Btl1 originates, or seems to be originating, from the part of the sky that contains Proxima Centauri. Now, Proxima Centauri is the closest star system to Earth, only 4 light years away. Of interest, it has an almost Earth-sized planet. It is 17% more massive than Earth, and it is inside what is called the habitable zone. This is kind of an antiquated idea. The habitable zone wouldn't include Europa, but Europa has liquid water. Anyways, the old school idea of a habitable zone is if you're this far from the star, then any water that's on the surface of this planet should be liquid. For what it's worth, there's a planet around this star, and it's in the habitable zone, and it's an Earth-like planet. So this Btl1 Signal was discovered by Shane Smith, an intern on the project, which I find awesome that he's just like going through all of this data and finds this amazing find. And it is broadcast on a frequency that's rarely used, 982.002. I've heard a lot of people point out the fact that this is really close to a unit of measurements that humans use, but megahertz is based on rotations, so it doesn't seem impossible for another intelligent species to create the same unit of measurement. Also, they're very close to us. They are almost certainly aware of us. They're almost certainly more advanced than us, so they would know what our unit of measurements are. Again, allegedly, if they exist, and they probably don't. The signal is probably from Earth. But we just don't know. The signal was detected 5 times and for about 30 minutes each. This is really different and sets it apart from the WOW signal because the WOW signal was only detected for 72 seconds and was only detected 1 time. Another interesting thing about Btl1 is that it was slightly increasing in frequency. This would indicate that whatever is emitting this signal is moving towards Earth. This could be because it's an Earth signal and it's coming from a satellite which is rotating closer to Earth. It could be because it is on a planet that in its rotation is moving closer to us. Or it could be because it's a spaceship and it's headed right for us. So it's not aliens probably, but if it is aliens, they're super close to us. They're almost certainly more advanced than us by a lot. And they almost certainly know about us because we're very loud, noisy neighbors, as previously mentioned. It's incredible. The drunker I get, the better my makeup looks. It's a Christmas miracle. So the last item on this list was discovered right in 2021 by NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite. And so that, as an acronym, is TESS, and the object is TESS Object of Interest 178, or TOI 178 for short. So this star system has 5 planets, and they're in really tight resonance with each other. What that means is that the innermost planet, in the time it takes for it to rotate 18 times around the star, the next planet out rotates 9 times, the next planet 6 times, the next planet 4 times, and the next planet 3 times. Usually there's some kind of rough resonance in star systems, but we have never seen anything like this before. Also, every other time we see a rough resonance, the planets have a decreasing density, so that the innermost planet is the most dense, and every next planet is less dense. So when you have that kind of density gradation, it becomes easier to form these kind of rough resonances. That's not the case with TOI 178. The densities go up and down, and the resonance is absolutely flawless, which we have never seen before, and we have absolutely no explanation for how it could happen. Yet again, it's probably not aliens, but we don't know what it is. Look at me, you guys. I got to drink 1 alcohol. I got to do my face like I'm a very cheap drag queen, which the shoe fits. And I got to lecture someone for God knows how long about my boring, nerdy interests that no one else cares about. So it was basically like going to a bar. I wish aliens were discovered in the 80s. I could do like some Madonna action, but alas, fucking 80s. Like, what was NASA up to in the 80s? Just chilling. Star Wars, that's what they were up to. They were up to destroying nuclear bombs with laser beams. Jewish laser beams, probably. I hope tonight we all learned a valuable lesson about how math is good and alcohol is bad. And the next time someone says that we haven't ever found aliens, remind them it's just that we haven't confirmed it's aliens. We've absolutely found a lot of weird shit,